Hey, what's up, guys? Spencer Rhodes here. So, in Fear the Walking Dead, Season 5, Episode 2, Strand kind of has a big role in this episode. There seems to be this general theme of Strand trying to redeem himself, trying to repent for his past mistakes. Strand is someone who's sort of been a morally gray, survival of the fittest, out for himself type of character in previous seasons, and sometimes he does the right thing and helps others. Sometimes he just does the wrong thing to look out for himself, to look out for his own best interests. He doesn't really necessarily believe in dying for something bigger than himself. He wants to survive for himself, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And he's a really interesting character, and I find him very compelling. I like a lot of his dialogue. Coleman Domingo is a fantastic actor, and he's directed, 2 episodes of the show at this point? He's also a director, so he's a pretty talented man, and I like the actor and I like the character. But it seems to me right now, and I could be wrong because we're just 2 episodes into this season, and there's many more left, 14 left, but it seems like right now, I have a feeling they're setting up Strand's death. And if by some crazy chance Strand doesn't die in this season, I'd be shocked if he survives season 6. But honestly, I'd say at this point there's like a 95% chance that Strand is going to die in this season. In season 5, it's not looking very good for him right now. I just have a feeling the writing for these last 2 episodes haven't been the best, and a part of that is that I think they're setting up Strand's death, and because the writing hasn't been the best, it's not the smartest, you can kind of tell that they're doing it. You know, in The Walking Dead does this all the time. You know someone's about to die. You know a main character's about to die. Once Tyrese started talking a lot, you knew he was going to die. Once Herschel started talking a lot, Beth started talking a lot, Abraham started talking a lot, you knew they were going to die. You saw their deaths coming before they happened. Sasha's death seemed pretty obvious, but maybe that doesn't completely count because it was something from the comics that a lot of fans that read the comics were like, oh, they're doing that comic thing. She's going to get that comic death. So The Walking Dead has had more than its share of obvious main character deaths where you saw them coming episodes before they happened. You really saw them coming ahead of time. And I think that this might be the case with Strand. Now it's not quite the same as The Walking Dead, because in The Walking Dead, they usually give you a lot of lines and give you some sort of happy, fulfilling moment, and you start really trying to do the right thing, and then you die. Fear the Walking Dead doesn't necessarily follow that structure of killing main characters. It kind of does a little bit, but not necessarily in every case. Now with Strand, I think what they're doing is they're having this really heavy theme of is he a good person? Is he not a good person? Can he redeem himself for the mistakes he's made? Is he going to stay, if he's selfless right now, if he cares about helping people and he cares about his friends right now, will he stay that way, or will he revert back to old Strand, who was just always looking out for himself, or mostly looking out for himself? And it wasn't too long ago where Strand was still struggling with that nature, because back in early season 4, he had hid an entire car full of supplies for himself, just in case he needed them, just for a plan B. So it wasn't that long ago where Strand was still struggling with this, and maybe after Madison and Nick's deaths, he really did change, and he really has changed, and he's not going to go back to his old ways. But there's still a possibility of that happening. He's still kind of on shaky ground when it comes to that, when it comes to being a good person, with redeeming himself. So I think that this season, with his story arc, that's the main focus. The main focus is, okay, is Strand going to stay a good person? And I just have a feeling they're going to resolve this by killing him off. They're going to give him some big, sad, dramatic, sacrificial death where he dies sacrificing himself, maybe to save the entire group, maybe to save Daniel, maybe just to save Alicia. I have a feeling they're building his character up for that. They're building his character up for that resolution. That's going to be how they resolve this. I was kind of worried about that before the season started, and I was kind of worried about that in episode 1. And after episode 2, I'm really worried about that. I don't want him to die. He's one of the 3 season 1 characters. And if there's anything that's going to help him out with this, it's the fact that he's one of the 3 originals that's remaining. But even then, it just looks like they're setting up his death. It just looks like it. I could be wrong, but it looks like it from the dialogue, from his scenes. The very beginning of episode 2, it's him talking on a videotape, talking to Charlie, Sarah, and Wendell, saying, if I don't make it, just know this and this and this, blah blah blah. It just seems like they're really, really foreshadowing and setting up him getting this type of heroic, sacrificial death. It could be the end of episode 8. I have a feeling that Strand's going to at least make it to episode 8. He's at least going to make it to the middle of the season. But he could die there. He could die in episode 8, and that could be the big event, the big ending of the first half of the season, because with almost every season of both The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, there's the 2 halves that are usually 8 episodes each, and there's always some big event at the end of the first half, and there's always some big event at the end of the second half. But the ending of the first half is this key thing that's this big thing that really sort of excites the audience and gives them something to talk about for the 2-month break in between halves. So that could be Strand's death. So Strand could get some big heroic death at the end of the first half of the season, or it could be at the end of the second half of the season, depending on how much time they want to spend building it up. Hopefully Strand at least makes it to the second half of the season. I really don't want there to be any major deaths in the first half. It just seems too soon. A lot of people are still reeling from Madison and Nick's deaths, so they don't want to see the last 3 season 1 characters die in the first half of season 5. They don't want to see Morgan die. There's a lot of Morgan fans. They don't want to see Morgan die, and everyone else, they're too new. They haven't been developed enough. Even Luciana, she just hasn't been developed enough to even earn a sad death. So honestly, I don't want anyone to die in the first half. So if someone dies in the second half, I'm thinking it could be Strand, because like I said, it just seems like they're setting it up that he's going to make the ultimate sacrifice and really truly prove that he's a changed man and he's not selfish anymore, and he's going to do that by dying for a bigger cause. And another thing, we got Daniel back in this episode, so we got the Daniel Strand dynamic, which has been a thing since season 2, maybe even season 1. I'm not sure how much interaction they had. I think they had a little interaction in season 1. But ever since season 2, there's always been this big dynamic, this big almost spy versus spy conflict between Daniel and Strand. And Strand keeps doing things that Daniel doesn't like. Daniel doesn't trust Strand. Daniel sees Strand as a snake that ultimately looks after himself. And even when Strand tries to do the right thing, it usually has major consequences that will accidentally get someone killed. And that's what Daniel ultimately told Strand at the end of the episode. He says, look, even if you're trying to do the right thing, whenever you try to do the right thing, people get hurt, people get killed. I'm not going to help you. Alicia can take care of herself. She's strong. So Daniel sends Strand out on his own. And so that like I said, that just seems to be a big thing about Strand's character. Has he changed, or is he going to end up sacrificing himself to save Daniel, to save Alicia, some sort of heroic, dramatic death? I'd be surprised if we get all this season 5 without a sad major death. I don't want it to be Strand, though, but I've had this feeling, I've had it for months, that this could be it. This could be the end of Strand. I mean, yes, he's one of the last 3 season 1 characters, and I don't think they should kill another one. But at the same time, I mean, what more does a character have to do? I don't know what Strand has to do in season 6. If in season 5 Strand redeems himself and he proves that he's a good person without dying, then what is he going to do in season 6? I mean, that's always been such a huge part of his story, is his sort of gray, morally gray cockroach nature. And if that completely gets resolved, then what is there left for the character to do? I want the character to live on. I want him to make it to season 6. I like him, but I'm having a hard time imagining him making it to season 6. I'm having a hard time imagining that. So I don't know. And like I said, I don't want him to die. I really, really like the character, and I don't think it's smart to get rid of one of the 3 season 1 characters left. But you know, they could kill Strand, or they could kill a newer, underdeveloped character. You know, which one's the one that makes more sense? Strand. I mean, Strand's had a good run. He's been on the show for 5 years. So I don't know. It's tricky. You know, it's tricky, and I just have a feeling that this is it for Strand. That Strand is going to die, and I'm not happy about it. But I'm not going to, close my eyes, close my ears, and be like, he's not going to die, because that's not going to stop it from happening. I might as well be honest and state that I do think that there's a very good, like 95% chance that Strand is not going to make it out of this season alive. Right now, at this point, I sincerely believe that Strand is going to die some sort of sacrificial, heroic death, saving someone or multiples of someone. Also, another thing is the problem with the radioactive walkers, the walkers with the radiation. One of the last scenes, or I think the ending of the episode, once Daniel tells Strand to get out of his little base of operations in Strand, is on his own in the dark. I don't even think he has a weapon on him, and there's walkers that are coming towards him. Strand beats a walker to death and gets a gunk on him. Now, if that's one of the radiated walkers, there's a possibility that Strand could be contaminated and not know it, and he could end up getting very sick and not know it. So maybe Strand gets really sick and he starts dying, and maybe that's when he decides to do something bigger than himself, because if he's going to die, he at least wants to die in a heroic way, saving someone else, and maybe that's how they end Strand's story. The only problem with that is that I feel like that's just a repeat of Jim. There's probably a lot of people that don't even know who that is. Well, he's a character from last season. He was in 5 episodes in the back half, and he was this guy that made alcohol, and he was kind of a coward, but he ends up getting bitten, and he has a lot of time to sort of deal with that, and he's an asshole still for a while. Even though he's dying, he's still an asshole. But close to the very end, he helps Morgan and he helps the other characters, and he decides to be heroic and selfless, and he dies that way. So if Strand gets contaminated with the radiated walkers and he decides to die in some sort of heroic sacrificial death, that's too similar to Jim. And Jim died, I think, in the penultimate episode of season 4. It was the penultimate episode. So that wasn't very long ago. You should kill 2 major characters off in the same fashion, especially when it's only a few episodes apart from each other. So I don't know. Maybe the whole contamination, radiated walkers doesn't matter. But even so, I still think that Strand's going to end up sacrificing himself to save someone else in this season. I'm 90-something% sure. I know I keep saying that, but I think there's a huge chance. I would like to be wrong, but I think we could be losing Strand this season. I think we're looking at Strand's last season. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't be shy. Hit that like and subscribe. I'm not going anywhere. I make 1 to 2 Walking Dead videos per day, so please hit that subscribe button. Right now we are at 546 subscribers. My goal is to try to get to 600 in the next few months. So just remember, every subscriber counts. Every bit of support matters and is very, very appreciated. Hopefully we can get to that goal of 600. Anyway, with all that said, I am Spencer Rhodes, and I will see you guys later. Bye!